This is Connie Mason. This is the Cape Lookout National Seashore and the Sound Waterfowl Museum Oral History Project. And today is the 12th. No, today is the 13th of December 2010. And I have as my guest interview today Susanne Guthrie. And she's going to be talking about Shackleford Banks and Harker's Island. Suzanne, welcome. Thank you for taking the time out of this busy part of the year to come talk to us. My first introduction to you really was through a photograph of Hugh Morton standing beside was that your
post office? By
the post office. That was was that your father's job? Or?
Right. My father was postmaster.
Was the postmaster of Harker's Island?
Of Harker's Island.
And how long was he a postmaster?
35 years, I think.
35 years. And what was his full name?
Floyd Yeomans.
Floyd Yeomans. And your mama's name was?
And my mother's name was Marguerite Yeomans, and she worked at the post office too.
And what was her maiden name? Was she from the island?
No, she was from Moorhead. And her name was Marguerite Ball.
Oh, a Ball. Okay.
From Moorhead.
Oh yeah. And your grandparents, now they actually lived over on Shackleford, didn't they?
Right. My father's father was actually born at Harker's Point, Harker's Island.
Oh, Harker's Point.
And then they lived there for a while, and then they moved to Shackleford because the fishing was better. And my father's mother was born and lived there.
Your father's mother?
Yeah.
Okay.
Which is my grandmother.
Okay. And what were their names?
Nettie Hancock Yeomans was my father's mother, and Daniel Webster Yeomans was my father's father.
And what relation to you is David Yeomans?
David is my father's uncle.
Okay.
Even though David was younger.
Big family.
Right. See, my father Floyd, his father Dan's father was Eugene. And Eugene had Dan and a whole bunch of children, and then his wife died, and then when he was in his late 60s, I guess, or 70s, I don't know, he remarried and had David and Ada.
I gotcha. Yeah.
So they were brother and sister to my grandfather.
How about that? And you were going to say where his house was on Shackleford. Do you know?
Well, I don't know where they lived on Shackleford. I think they lived more down to Diamond City.
Okay.
When I was a little girl, 4 or 5 years old, up until Hurricane Hazel, we had a camp in the area right near the horse pen where the people used to pen horses every summer. Our camp was right near that because my grandfather and my father owned horses and branded them and sold them.
Now, I have this topo map. Is the horse pen on this particular map, or does it not show it?
I don't think it actually shows it on there.
Okay.
But the horse pen was down on the eastern end of the banks.
Near Conch Shoal Marsh on this map, or?
Yeah, sort of near Beargrass in that area, but on the shore.
And so is it true that all the camps were built on the sound side? None of them were on the ocean side?
All the camps were on the sound side. But see, we had our camp there in, I was born in 1944, and they probably built the camp 1945, 1946. I'm not sure about that, but they probably did. Because I remember going there just as a little child, and it was just a simple little one-room building. Had some windows, no screens. Until later days, Mother got them to put screens in because of the mosquitoes. But we had bunks on one side, and then we had a pump and a sink on the other side. And it was really roughing it when you went over there.
Was it a well, or did it pump out of a cistern?
No, we had a well. They drove a pump down. But then when you start pumping it, the water was not good.
Wasn't potable, wasn't
No,
drinkable.
we would take our water to drink. But we cooked in it and washed in it and all that.
Mm-hmm. And it was just bare bones inside, right?
It was
There's no closets or...
No closets.
Room divisions? Was there...
No, it was just all one big room, and it had 6 bunks on one side, built in.
Were they feather beds, feather mattresses?
And yeah, they were. And then we had a stove, a kerosene cook stove. And then when we really got up into life, we had a refrigerator that you put ice block in.
Oh.
For a little while.
A real ice box.
A real ice box.
Was it built up high or low?
No, it was built low.
Mm-hmm. Did the water ever come in? Or?
I don't know. Probably would have. Mm-hmm. But my grandfather built it, and my father and his brother. And the story goes, I don't remember it, but because I was too young. But the story goes that they would go over there hunting loons, and they had killed some loons, and the game warden came, and my grandmother hid them in the mattress. And she told them, no, they hadn't killed any loons, no. And they were safe because she hid them in the mattress. And people always said that Nettie would never give up her loons.
I think that's great.
Yeah. And then I remember going over there when I was 9, 10. You can remember those ages better, to the horse penning every year. And we had a little white dog. We'd take him, and they'd pen the horses. And
was it a certain time of year?
They pen horses the first Saturday in June and July and August. And sometime if it would work around, it would be on 4th of July. That was always real hot and more people. And
Did anybody ever get hurt doing those pony pennings?
Not desperately that I know of, no.
Yeah. And what did they do at the pony penning?
Well, they'd round the horses up, and then they would take out the young ones who were standing up by their mothers. And then they'd brand them or sell them. If they sold them, then they'd bring them back.
Mm-hmm. Did they hot brand them, or was it?
Yeah, it was. They built a little fire and put these branding irons in it.
Mm-hmm. How did they figure out whose horse it was?
Well, they'd stand around. The men would stand around and they'd look, and of course, the mares would be in there with the colts, and then they would keep milling around, and then when horses settled down, the colt would go to the mother. Mm-hmm. And they'd stand there and look and stand and look and wait, and it seemed like forever. The children that wanted to hurry and do something, but they'd say, "Oh no, wait and see what she's going to do," and "Oh yeah, that one must be hers because she's standing there to it." And,
that was very smart, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then if they sold one and took it off, then when they let them out, when they let all of them out, we'd be over there in our camp that night. And I can remember hearing the horses running up and down, the mother looking for the baby that they had taken away.
Oh, that's sad.
So that always used to make us feel sad. But
yeah. Now, I understand there was maybe a dipping vat over there too. Did they dip the horses in?
I don't think they dipped the horses, but there was a dipping vat up at the other area where they dipped the sheep.
And what area would that be?
And that was up by Dr. Moore's camp, up almost to the Wade Shore area.
Almost to the Wade Shore.
In that area. And that was the dipping vat, I think, was for the sheep and maybe the cows. I don't remember them dipping horses. Mm-hmm. Not to say they didn't, but I don't remember that.
Sure. And
we had a horse that we took home, and when it was a colt, and then we kept it home for 4 or 5 years and tamed it here at Harkers Island and rode it around and everything. And then we took it back, and then whenever we'd go, it would come running up to see us.
Oh, how about that?
So that was good.
Did you have to feed it anything special because it came off the banks when you took it over here? Or? To acclimate?
No, I guess they kept feeding it to get it used to oats, and then when it went back, it would eat grass, and then it would eat grass around the yard. So I don't.
Do you know what happened to that horse?
Well, it stayed over there for some years, and then it just
never came around.
Never came around.
How about that?
So it was so tame that we were thinking that maybe somebody came over there and it came up to them and they took it. It's a possibility.
Absolutely. Now, with your camp over there, who were your neighbor camps? So, like, say,
You're talking about my grandfather's camp.
Yeah.
Well, my grandfather's camp was the only one in that area.
In that area, okay.
And then way down to the westward, Clarence Willis and Lois built a camp. And that was the closest one to us, and that wasn't very close.
Would you feel comfortable making an X on the map there? Do you think about where it was? That's a pencil, so.
I hope I'm doing this right.
Well, it's an approximation.
Yeah. Well, this might be in right here.
Okay.
Where Clarence's was. In Johnson's Bay. And then ours would have been down here. Probably in here.
Let's just make an X there where we think yours is. Grandfather's.
Probably in there.
Okay.
And of course, when ours was there, see, in the 50s. Then Clarence built his. And then to the west. And then the next camp from Clarence's would have been Dr. Moore's, which is way down.
Which was past Whale Creek.
Yeah, Dr. Moore's was past Whale Creek up here in this area. And you had Dr. Moore's, and you had Gurman's.
Here, just write on that if you like.
Well, you had Dr. Moore's.
Just tell me the
Gurman's.
progression of it.
Yeah.
So there's Whale Creek.
Okay, so ours would have been down here by the horse pen. Clarence's would have been in here. And then Dr. Moore's would have been down here.
And then the next one would be
Gurman's.
Gurman
Holland's. And in the 50s, see, 50, 55, in there, until the 60s, those were the only ones there. Then somewhere around the 60s, people started going over there and building more camps.
Okay, I didn't realize that. I thought it was the other way around.
And that's when most of them were built. And
in the 60s. After the 60s.
Yeah, because we built ours in 67, and there was already a good number when we built ours.
And show me where yours was built.
You see, my grandfather's camp was down here. Well, that blew away in Hazel. So from whenever Hazel was, we didn't go back and build it again because Daddy said it was too much because it would probably blow away. So then when I got married and married Jack Guthrie, whose family owned a stretch of banks in there, we said, let's go there and build a camp. So since my father, they didn't have any claim to the land. They didn't even think they owned it. But the Moores actually did own a big space of this. So I married Jack, whose mother was a Moore. So we went over there, and Alan Moore, the oldest one, I guess, in the family left then, showed us where the land was and told us where we could pick out a place. And so we picked us out a little place and built a camp, which is more like a house from what the other ones were.
So how different was yours from everybody else's?
So we started that was probably about right here. The map just kind of strange. Whale Creek's there. Our camp must have been right there.
Well, here's Whale Creek on the other map. Maybe that might be better. There's Whale Creek there, so you're saying right in about here?
Well, it was right here. Ball Hill Bay.
Ball Hill Bay.
Right there. So we built ours there on the western end of Ball Hill Bay.
Mm-hmm.
At that time, Bill Moore had one by Sam Windsor's Lump.
Mm-hmm.
That's where Bill Moore's camp was,
Mm-hmm.
which was about right here.
It's really interesting. On this map, it says Sam Winter Lump.
Yeah.
That's how messed up they can get. But
And we built ours, and then Polly and Don Davis already had one down here. Merle Houston had one there. Staten's was here. And then people started building, and it all built up.
so let's, if you would, there. So when I go back to
All right, that's ours, and this would be William Hill's. It was right there. And then Lori Moore had one.
Dr. Moore.
No, he was a relative of his.
Mhm.
Lori Moore from Marshburg. Lori and Helen Moore.
Oh yeah. Gail Piner's relatives.
Yeah. And then Polly Davis and Houston Solder. You can't read this.
Well, with the tape in there, so I can.
And there was a bunch of houses in there. Staten Moore's had one there.
Right beside Polly.
Yeah, sort of in there. And then Lester Hamilton built one down here on the other side of us. Right there, Lester
Mm-hmm.
Hamilton. And then his daughter, Kay, built one beside him.
Mm-hmm.
So that ended up to be a little community of houses, because all of these people that I just mentioned are in the Moore family.
Mm-hmm.
So they knew and had it on a deed that they own that.
Mm-hmm.
Way down here.
Mm-hmm.
Got the dimensions, but it had 2 rooms on the back and one big long room across the front, which was a living room and a kitchen, and it had 2 bedrooms. And one bedroom had bunk beds built in and a single bed, and then the other bedroom had a double bed.
And you used oil lamps?
And we used oil and gas lamps.
Gas lamps.
We had a gas cook stove, gas refrigerator, and gas lights, and they were all piped in inside the wall, and then we sheathed the inside.
Oh.
So it was just like a house you'd have here.
Mm-hmm. Sounds nice.
And the ceiling was redwood. It was redwood on the outside. Well, it was plywood first, and then redwood on that. And it was sheathed on the inside in redwood and paneling.
Wow.
And we had a little bathroom. We had a little commode, little room on the porch that was built in with a commode. I mean, we didn't have a shower outside.
Did you go over there all year round?
And then we had a porch
Oh.
on the sand side, and then we later built a porch on the ocean side and a top to that porch that you could, with steps, you could go up and look out at the beach.
Oh yeah, that's nice. That's nice. Kind of like
So it was nice.
a little widow's walk on top.
Right.
Wonderful. And you went there all year round?
And we didn't go there as much in the winter because we were both working. Mm-hmm. We were school teachers, and so we were off in the summer, so we had more chance to go. But in the winter, the weather gets bad, and we'd go every once in a while, but not a whole lot. Now, some of those other people, Bill Moore would go a lot in the winter. And
was he a hunter?
he hunted and oystered and fished and stuff. And I think Lori and Helen would go some in the winter. But we didn't go that much in the winter, but we went every weekend in the summer.
And where did you teach?
Harker's Island.
Harker's Island. Was it general subjects or was it specified?
Well, 1st through 4th grade.
1st through 4th. You must have a lot of students here on the island.
Yeah.
They must all know you. Do you recognize them now?
No, because some of them are grown. And most of them are grown. They're all grown.
They change.
And they change, yeah.
Yeah. And where did your husband teach?
He taught here, and then he quit teaching and went to work with the marine fisheries.
Oh, okay. What did he do?
And he retired from that. He was a biologist technician.
Oh, wonderful.
So
tell me. You were going to.
Now these were the camps I was talking about that belonged to the Moores, because they were all in that area. And then Dr. Moore's camp was further down here, and that was on family land.
Right.
Then we discovered that the land had been torrenized and that they didn't actually own as much as they thought they owned, and they didn't own where our camp was. So
that must have been devastating.
That was a devastating thing. But that's the way life is. Now down the shore to the east in Johnson's Bay, which is what we ended up calling Little Miami.
Oh, yeah.
There were lots of people that just came. They had no claim to the land, but they just came over, found a space, staked it off, and built a camp.
Little Miami.
And in the modern times, they started calling that Little Miami because there were so many camps down there.
Well, now, did anybody raise any objections at all for,
Not when they built the camps. Because whoever owned it wasn't here and didn't care, say anything about it.
Okay.
But those people knew that they didn't have any claim to the land. They just
built.
Came over and built. And in those days you could do that, because that's what my grandfather had done when he built our camp when we were children. Because people would build camps so they could go fishing. Like there was a couple camps on the end of Shackleford where you go out into the ocean. There were fish camps that were owned by different men who were here that fished.
So about the edge of where Barden's Inlet is today?
Yeah. I think there's somebody, Tom Martin, had a camp up there. And fishermen sometimes would stay in it. But that was just sort of like ours was. It's just like a little
it wasn't a business for him, was it?
No. Well,
where he
that's what
kind of hired out the place for hunters and fishermen? Or?
No. He would be going over there to set his nets. And while the net was setting,
someplace
he had that camp that he could go and sleep and then go out and do the net. I have heard of families going over there clamming, and they in the summer, and they take the children, and they'd stay in some little camp until Saturday or Friday, and then they'd come home with clams. But that was way back in the 40s.
Right. Were there a lot of camps on the Core Banks property?
I don't know much about the Core Banks area. I don't know.
Do you remember any stories about Sam Windsor?
Yeah, he was supposed to have lived there, and he set his net and got it full of pinfish, and he told them just to grab what they wanted, and he was going to leave, and he left the net and everything. Gave up fishing.
He gave up fishing
and went to Beaufort. I think there's some people in Beaufort with that same name.
Oh, really? Oh, that's interesting. You said Little Miami was right there in that area. Are there any other place names that don't appear on this map that people used to locally call areas? I know what you see there, Black
Duck Bay.
Yeah, that was something that James Allen Rose said he remembered it called that instead of Bald Hill Bay. And So are there things like that you remember that?
No, Cabs Creek.
That's what you call it.
That's
Whale
right.
Creek.
Yeah, Whale Creek.
And where on this map is the cemetery?
That's way
past
way
this
down
map?
on the other end.
Okay. Yeah, I wish I had a better map for you.
My husband's mother lived over there, and my grandparents lived over there. I don't know why we didn't say to them and take them over there and say, "Show me where your house was."
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because now I have no idea where my grandmother lived over there.
How about that?
And at that time, she could have
Taking you right to it?
taken us right to it.
Well, we never.
Now, when we were little and going to the horse pen, all in that area behind our camp, there were little mounds of shells and stuff where houses were. Mm-hmm. And Daddy would say, "Yeah, that's where houses were," but he never did say whose they were. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But we'd go pick around and dig and look and find little pieces of glass and pottery and stuff like that.
So that's behind
little
your grandfather's camp, their Blind's Hammock.
Yeah,
back in Diamond City Hills.
Where the horse pen was in that area. And I went over there this fall and looked just to look and see if there were any of those mounds left. Mm-hmm. I couldn't find anything.
Really? Mm. Well, that's the dynamics of those banks.
It's just covered up.
Yeah. Do you remember hear them talk about the high hill, or where they would look for the whales to come in? And
no, that whaling was way before me.
Well, I know, but I mean, I was just wondering if you heard stories, or maybe your grandfather took you to places like that, and mm-hmm. Those grandfathers love to tell granddaughters good stories.
Yeah, they do.
Did you go to the lighthouse area a lot when you were over here, or you just stayed in that area?
For the most part, we just stayed to the banks. Mm-hmm. We'd go to the Cape on special occasions or something. Mm-hmm. When I was about a year old, they always tell a story that we went over to the Cape to spend the weekend, and they were having a big dance at, I guess, Miss Harker's house, or one of those houses, and Mother was up dancing, and I wanted to get up and dance, and I was crying because she wouldn't. She wouldn't stop and hold me, and somebody else was trying to hold me, and they always laughing about how you cried because your mother put you down and went to dance with somebody. But I don't remember that. That was before
memory sets in. Yeah.
But when I was about 8, we went over there and stayed in Kelly Willis's house.
Where was that?
That was at the Cape.
That was at the Cape. I've got a map of the Cape, actually.
And now, I don't know really where they were.
I was going to see. I got Gordon Willis. Gaskell Guthrie. Bull Bryant.
Yeah, see, those changed.
Yeah.
So I don't know just where that was, but at that time it was his, but then it changed.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's see, we're about to lose this side of the tape. Let me turn it over. Okay. When you went over to the Cape, I guess did you bring a set net with you, or did you fish off the shore?
When I was little, we would go there with we would go trolling and that kind of sport fishing, I guess. Mm-hmm. My father didn't do much with nets. I don't know that we even really had a net. Mm-hmm. of his own. He was the postmaster, and he fished some before he became postmaster. But then when he became postmaster, he said that the other people were fishing for their living and that he shouldn't get in their way.
Right.
Because he already had a job.
Right. Well, that was nice.
And he was real concerned about that. So
Sure.
I don't ever remember having a net, him having a net.
Well, there were also a lot of work, too, when, before
it was a lot of
got
work.
the nylon stuff. They had to
And but we would go there and fish with a line behind the boat. And
just
like
with a hook?
with a hook, yeah. And then we got rods and reels, and we do that.
Who did most of the cooking? What was your favorite meal?
Well, my mother would cook most of it.
Yeah.
Oh,
What was your
at the
favorite meal at
Banks.
the Banks?
Well, when I was a little girl at the Banks, we just went over there on weekends, and we more or less roughed it because that house was really rough. So, but when we had our camp after we got married in the 60s, then we cooked big things, clam bakes and charcoal mullets and.
Did your neighbors knock on the door and say, we're here too?
Yeah. Well, a lot of times we'd get together. We'd go down to Little Miami with that crowd and have big cookouts, and they'd come up there and we'd have big cookouts.
Oh, that sounds nice.
So it was a lot of fun.
Did you know ahead of time? I mean, how did the word get around? You just
We just,
it was the weekend, and
weekend,
everybody
you
kind of
knew something
expected.
was going to happen.
Do you remember, or did your grandfather tell you anything about Diamond City or anything that he knew about it?
No, not that much. They didn't really say that much. Or at least I didn't remember it. Maybe I wasn't listening.
How about the Chrissy Wright?
That could have been. Yeah, I've heard that story, but...
Because where James Allen put it, it's almost right behind where your granddaddy's cabin. And it really makes sense that, there were people back there because, the people came down the shore to help them.
I have seen wood on the beach where it was a boat that had washed up.
I seen a picture of, and nobody knows exactly what it is. There was a big, it wasn't down here by the gun mounts at the point, but it was up in here, a big concrete slab that had some pipes in it, and concrete hadn't been around that long, but I am curious. I don't know what in the world that could have been.
There's some pipes in here on the ocean side that I saw like last year and this past fall. I've seen them. It looks like a pump pipe where a house might have been. And my husband said that it's from some camp they had there during the war.
Oh, okay.
And there's some cement there around that.
Yeah.
And there's some pump pipes, and they will wash out. Sometimes you can go there and you can't find them at all. And then the next time you go there, and they'll be 3 feet high. And they're right in the edge of the
on the ocean side.
Beach, on the ocean side.
That was the curious thing
so
to me.
If somebody's coming down the edge of the ocean, which a lot of boats do, to get close in and don't know they're there, they could run that boat on that pipe. It could be dangerous.
That could be bad. Well,
so I mentioned it to the Park Service person that was there on the beach one day that they should mark it. And he said he didn't really know what it was. So maybe they will mark it.
Well, maybe we can find out.
It should be marked or cut off or something because it could be dangerous to a boat.
Absolutely. Well, anything rusty too. I mean,
yeah. But it's amazing how that will wash out and then come back and wash out and come back.
Yeah, I was amazed because I didn't know anything was over there. So you think it was probably World War II?
He said that's what he says. It's from some World War II camp.
Well, I know they were at the Banks, but I thought they were more in the lighthouse area and down near the near the point.
Now, in that same area, I've seen big metal bowls, which was, they said it was a part of the submarine nets.
Oh, some floats?
That they had floats,
maybe?
yeah. That they had when they had the submarine nets out there. But now they're all gone. I haven't seen any of that remains in ages.
Wow. I found a big metal ball. It looks like a net float, but I was going, what in the world? Why would it be metal? It was in my aunt's house, and when she died, a lot of us got to go over there and, take something home. And I took that home. I said, I don't know what it is. Well, maybe it's a submarine float. I'll have to ask around. And that's something to look into too.
Now down by where Dr. Moore's camp was, house, his house had something to do with the war. I think it was first built as barracks or something. I'm not sure.
Oh.
But in that area, right in here somewhere.
Between Whale Creek and Dr. Moore's?
Yeah, between Whale Creek and, There's a concrete slab that has names of people who I guess were stationed there.
Oh.
And we came across that in the 60s when we first were over there. And we took pictures of it. And then since then, we can't find it because it's grown up.
Oh.
But at that time, it was out. And
so about
somewhere in my house,
there?
somewhere in my house, I have pictures of that.
Well, if you come across them, I'd love to copy them. That'd be great.
Need to find those.
So they wrote their names in it just like we would today, just to say, I was here.
Yeah, it must have been.
Oh, that's neat. I did not realize there was so much, except for the point of the Cape, that there was so much activity during World War II on the banks. But apparently there was a lot more going on over there than we thought. Especially down to
they were
the western end.
Continuously watching. And then they had to keep the blinds closed here, pull the shades down at night to keep...
Oh, the blackouts, yeah.
Blackouts.
Yeah. Well, let's go to Harker's Island. I got a better map of Harker's Island. And that's about 1940s or something like that. And could you just maybe circle or X out where the post office was at that time that your dad worked? I'll let you get your bearings there because it is.
It was right down here.
Okay.
On the shore. It was by Henry's.
Just put a PO or something like that.
Henry's dock. It was down the shore a little ways first when Earl Davis's mother was postmaster. I think her name was Clara. I'm not sure. But I think Clara Davis was postmaster. And she had it there, like at her house.
Mm-hmm.
And then when Daddy became postmaster, he moved it down
to the west, or
to a little bit to the west, or like the next lot over.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a little building on the shore, and his father's house was right behind it.
His father's house?
Yeah, my grandfather's house was right behind it, Dan.
Right.
Dan Yeomans. And I guess they moved it there because that's where they were going to be.
Mm-hmm.
And the mailboat used to come in there.
And
the post office was there until, I'm not sure when, it moved on the road up right across from the Mormon church.
Across from the Mormon church?
Mm-hmm. Now where that...
Little gas station there?
No, it was on this side, on the other side.
Oh, okay.
It's now, the post office is where that marina is. Fishing center.
Oh, okay.
See, the fishing center owns from the shore to the road.
I gotcha. So it's kind of where...
It's where the parking lot of the fishing center is.
So it's right next door to Billy Bess?
Yeah.
Right next door to Billy Bess, but on the western side?
Western side of Billy Bess.
Okay. So that's where it was. That's where it went after your daddy had it. Then it moved there.
Yeah, when he had it, it moved there.
Mm-hmm.
Then it moved from there up to where it is now.
Okay.
Now he never went where it is now. He was just postmaster there.
But it was a yeoman's really that.
Yeah, and then it moved up here. It was still yeoman's. It's been yeoman's until recently.
How about that?
But it was those two places where he had it.
Did you feel any pressure to become a postmaster?
No. He didn't. He didn't think we should be postmaster. He complained about it a whole lot. He wanted us to do something better. So we're school teacher.
Well, I think that is better. I mean, that is a very
Yeah.
honorable profession.
He complained a lot about the federal government, of course, with the post office. Inspectors are coming to visit and all stuff like that.
Oh, yeah. No, it can be.
But it was a good job. He was glad to have it, and he did a good job.
But he never lost touch with his the fishing community because, like you said, he was sensitive to not be in the way.
Very sensitive to be in the way of other people who were fishing for a living. He'd say, I've heard him say many a time, they are out there trying to make money to get food. And I've got a job, so I'm not going out there and getting in their way.
Did you know?
We'd say, oh, we should get a net and go do this. So-and-so caught these men. And he'd say, no, we're not going to get in their way. And I don't remember him even owning a net until after he retired, and then his ambition was to retire and then fish. So he had a boat built right before he retired.
Who built it? Do you remember?
Brady built it.
Brady Lewis. Oh.
So he had this boat built, and he was going to retire and fish. And of course, by the time he did that, we were all grown and gone. So he didn't have us to help him. And then by the time he retired, then he got sick right after that. Maybe had about 7 or 8 years of good life, and then he got sick and had cancer and died. So,
but he did get to fish some.
He did get to fish some, yeah.
Oh, that's good. That's good. So, is it really a tradition that the yeoman family being in the postal service?
I guess it just happened that way.
Or just happened that way.
It just happened that way. I don't think they planned it.
Well, it is a name synonymous with the postal service here on the island.
Because the Davis people had it first, and then Daddy got it. He had it so long.
Did he have a store inside too, or?
No. The building had been a store, but it was always a post office.
It was kind of a western front, the square.
Yeah.
Topped.
It was a little front, and it had shelves inside where when it was a store they had stuff. But he never did run the store.
And what were some of the mailboats that stopped by there? Do you know some of them?
Well, the one from Beaufort came that Kelly Willis ran. But I don't really remember the mailboat because when I remember they just brought the mail by this mail truck.
Oh, so that was like 41 when the bridge was already built.
Well, the bridge came in 39, 38 or 39. And see, that was before my time because I was born in 44. So I don't remember any of this ferry or the mailboat thing. But Kelly Willis still ran the mail. He had a little van type car.
Oh, did he? After the bridge was built?
After the bridge was built, then he started carrying it by car.
That's it. I had never heard that. That's great.
And sometimes I used to ride to Beaufort with him because my mother's mother, lived in Moorhead. And if I wanted to go there and visit on the weekend, they'd put me on the mail truck, and then I'd ride to Beaufort with him and the post office, and my grandmother would come over there and pick me up.
Now, see, they wouldn't allow that today.
No,
but I think it's over in Ireland that the postman is a taxi too, and you can just get a ride and go, and it just. Isn't that interesting?
I'm sure then there was probably some kind of big federal law against it.
What has changed the most on Harkers Island since you were a kid? Good and bad.
Well, the amount of people, there's so many more people, and the amount of outsiders, I think, is the biggest change.
Yeah.
Because in those days, it was just almost all local people. And when anything happened, everybody knew about it, and everybody was concerned and cared. And we were talking about yesterday that in the old days, when somebody died, everything stopped. Everybody stopped, and everybody went to visit, and they'd usually bring the person home and put them in the living room, and then they'd have people sitting up with them all night. Or if they took them to the church, they'd have people that sat up with them at church all night. The body was never left by itself. And now it's like somebody dies, and you say, oh, so-and-so died. Oh, well, I didn't know that. And, life just goes on.
Yeah, it really has kind of taken the preciousness of life, for granted. The way we treat our deceased now.
Yeah. So like yesterday, there was a man that committed suicide.
I heard about
over
that.
Here. And of course, there was a Christmas parade planned. And of course, nothing stops, even though somebody's died.
Killed themselves.
Yeah, killed themselves.
That was pretty bad.
Pretty bad. But, and half the people didn't even know him, even though he was a local person. I doubt that anybody in that parade stuff, they didn't even know him.
Yeah, I just heard about it today. In fact,
like,
right when I called you, Pam was saying, and somebody killed themselves. That's why I was kind of distracted when you answered. I was kind of flabbergasted. I didn't know what to say. But
it's
so that's a lot different attitude toward people and community.
It's not that tight knit, close community that it was, and it never will be.
No.
And that is just a matter of time, and at times do that to every little community all over the world. They're changing.
Yeah, I'm afraid you're right. And the internet has changed so much.
Because we were talking yesterday about how safe the island was. You could ride your bicycle. I mean, Mother and Daddy both worked at the post office, and right in front of my grandparents' house. All right, we lived down here.
To the east,
near the school. Well, we didn't have a telephone or anything like that when we were growing up. Mother and Daddy would go to work in the morning in the summer. There were 3 of us, 3 years apart. I was the youngest one. She'd go to work, leave us home in the summer. We'd get up, get something to eat, and go play. And then sometime during the day, we'd wander down by the post office and say hey. Checking in, and then she'd come home at lunch and fix lunch for us, and then she'd go back. But we were just all over this place.
You were on your own, and there was no fear of leaving you alone?
She did say, don't go swimming until I get home at 3 o'clock. She'd say, don't go swimming.
Right.
But we went and walked around in the water. We could walk around and pull little boats and and build things in the sand. And we didn't go swimming. She said, don't go swimming. We didn't go swimming until she came home.
Right. And you went to school here on Harker's Island?
Yeah. But she was not worried about somebody coming and kidnapping us. And she wasn't worrying about us riding all the way to Shell Point and getting lost or hurt or something, because we didn't ride all the way to Shell Point. We stayed in that little neighborhood area from where the school is now to where the Methodist Church is. That was our
your community.
Space. Yeah. That was our little group. And then there was more little groups down here. And these children all played together, and these all played together, and these all played together. But you didn't mingle that much throughout the whole island.
Were there names for these pockets of communities? Did some of them have names?
Yeah, well, you had Red Hill was up here.
by Rush Point.
Yeah,
and
that's the Red Hill
Lewis
crowd.
Point.
And then you had the Easter crowd right in here. They call that Chinatown.
Oh, Chinatown.
Have you heard that mentioned?
No, what is that? What is that reference to?
The area right in here from the other side of the school down by right before you get to Calico Jack's.
Mm-hmm.
That area in there we called Chinatown. And that was that little group of people.
Okay. And James Allen Rose was telling me that there were Indian trails about in that same area through there. Do you remember them? Or
well, I didn't know because see, I didn't go down here and play in this group.
Right, because that was Chinatown. And
right.
What did you have a name for your community?
No, I think we were kind of in the middle, so I don't know.
So like you were probably the middle community.
Yeah.
Were there people living near Shell Point, or was that mostly commercial at that time?
Well, the Harkers lived down there,
mm-hmm.
and the Guthries there.
Which Guthries were those? Stacy Guthrie and that.
Well, they did live down there too. Yeah.
Do you remember the Shell Middens at all? Or was that before your time?
No, I don't remember
before
that.
your time.
Oh, where the shells were at Shell Point. Yeah, I remember that. Seeing that and running up and down it.
I've seen pictures. It was quite impressive, really. And did you have your own skiff or boat that you would play in, or?
We had a skiff.
And it was was that the Brady? That wasn't the Brady.
No, that was later on. We had a skiff. It was a sailboat, and
like a spritzel, or
yeah. And Daddy would sail it before he got his outboard motor. But then he got an outboard motor, but he kept the sail in it for years, just in case.
That's right.
That 5-horse outboard motor didn't work.
5 horsepower.
Yeah.
Now, doesn't the current run through there stronger than 5?
Mine probably.
5 power?
But he kept sailing that, and it was in the way because it was a big sail and all that. But he wouldn't take it out or remodel it. Finally, he did take it out and remodeled it and closed up the
centerboard
where the centerboard went.
He kept the mast stepped. The mast was up, but the sail was.
No, the mast that was laying down.
Oh, okay.
He had that laying down.
How about that?
But the kids in these neighborhoods, we didn't really go have sleepovers at people's houses. Where they do now. I mean, now they're always having slumber parties and sleepovers, and children are everywhere, you know. But then everybody just pretty much stayed close by. And
during your lifetime, your early childhood, most of the houses were on the shore, on the back south side of the island.
Or on that front road, which is now Island Road. Mm-hmm. See, none of those other roads are there. None of that stuff out there.
On the straight side.
Oak Hammock and all that out there.
Yeah, that was all much later.
And we live on Canal Drive, on the end of that. And when my husband bought the land, he bought 2 lots on the end of Canal Drive. And in probably 65 or 66, he wasn't even married. He was teaching. And he thought, well, I'll go out there and buy 2 lots. Because I might need it. And all of his friends said, you know what, you're so crazy going way out there and buying 2 lots. You know, who's going to ever want to live out there? And now it's just
everybody
piled up with people, and everybody wants to live out there.
Well, he had some foresight. Some foresight. Well, let's just talk just a little bit about when the Park Service came. I know I don't hate to end it on a negative note, but I do want your feelings and opinions about what happened, you know, and about that whole situation. It was very painful, I know.
Well, the situation with us was that we thought we owned the land at the banks because the Moores had deeds to their land, which they did own it, but somebody from Kinston had Torrenized it. So they ended up owning some land, but not near as much as they thought they owned. So that's why we had built our camp where it was.
But and the other people that that got moved off in the disputes, that some of them didn't. A lot of them didn't have any claim to the land. So they were just squatters, and they were just disappointed that they lost that opportunity to go up. Which we kind of hoped that maybe we would have it a little bit better since we did own the land. Absolutely, yeah. But then that was out because our camp wasn't actually on the land we owned. But then it wouldn't have been right for us to have had ours and them to have lost theirs. So it was the way it goes. Yeah. It was something that was needed to be done and was going to be done, so there's really no need to get upset about it. Right. Because it's better. In hindsight, do you think it's better what's happened? It's better, and we talked about it, and we knew at the time it was going to be better. Mm-hmm. But of course, it's never nice if you have your house taken away from you. No. What happened to your house? But it burned. But it is better because the banks is still there. Mm-hmm. And you can go, and I can go, and everybody can go. And you can put up a tent, you can stay so many days and move it and stay so many more days. So we can still go back like we did. Now we don't have that house there, and we don't have the three-wheelers and that kind of stuff that we had. But had those three-wheelers stayed, it would have been torn up. It would have been disaster. Somebody would have been hurt bad and killed. Because when you take three-wheelers up and down those hills, it's just a chance you're going to get hurt. So we talked about it. We said, the way it is, somebody's going to get killed if they don't take them off. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it would have torn up the vegetation. Yeah. The more vegetation that's over there, the more that grows is going to help us when that big storm comes. That's right. Because that's the only protection we've got. Absolutely. So we need to keep it growing and keep it planted. Right. Well, I really appreciate your candor and their help today, and we might need another follow-up. I don't know, but I appreciate it so much just for clarity, for my sake. I want to go through and transcribe this and do the maps and what I'll do is I'll put it on my computer and type in the names and things. But I thank you so much for coming out, Susanne, and I hope you have a Merry Christmas. Okay, you too. And thanks for coming out. It's such a busy time of year. And I hope we get a chance to talk again. It is busy time. Thank you so much.